Let's get to the Twitter poll first. That would be top 6 forward, top 4 defenseman, veteran goaltender, or depth forward or defense. Top 4 defenseman won this poll 62.5%. Second was top 6 forward, and third was depth forward or defense. I was actually kind of shocked given the veteran goaltender, because I still think that, if Levi's going to spend another year in Rochester, they're going to need somebody to help UPL out. Reimer did a great job. Whether he comes back or not, we'll have to wait and see. Austin, what is your thoughts on the biggest offseason need? And again, this is all pending with the Boehm Byram situation that has come up in the last week.
Yeah, and I think this will be more for our offseason preview show, but I do want to kind of, we should do a nice little dive into that goaltender situation, because I'm not 100% sure. Like you said, I don't think veteran goalie is high on the Sabres list either, because part of me has a sneaking suspicion that they're going to let Levi not only challenge for the backup, but part of me is not fully out on them letting Levi challenge for the starting job next year, but that is for a later date. Top 4 defensemen by far. I think you could argue 2 defensemen, maybe not 2 top 4, but 2 really solid defensemen. So whether it's a top 4 and like a third pairing guy, but defense should be their biggest needs. They should spend a lot of their time revamping that D-core. That doesn't necessarily mean they can't add to the forwards. I still think they should add a veteran tweener, right? Like middle 6, I'll say. They should definitely look to add a middle 6 forward to help out with everything there. But if they come away with most of their offseason moves targeting that top 4 defense, and their solid moves, I think that's a win. Again, you have to expect regression, but offense wasn't the problem last year. It was goaltending / keeping the puck out of your net, which defense has a big part of that. So wouldn't be surprised if that's where a majority of their efforts are put, especially with the rumored Boehm Byram news that, the Sabres are testing the market to see what they can get for him. So if you lose Boehm Byram, you do need 2 top 4 defensemen. So to me, that's where I kind of lean. But I still hope they add some forward depth as well. Quality forward, not just like a Beck Mallenstein guy, like a real piece that can play second or third. Defense should be 80% of my.
Putting another layer on that, friend of the show, Joe Yurden, obviously does a great job covering the Sabres on a daily basis. He tweeted out earlier today, on the report of Sabres RFA Bo Byram requesting a trade, I reached out to his agent, Darren Ferris, who said Bo has made no such request and calls it a total fabrication. So,
do you want me to explain why he had to do that?
Sure.
Apparently Paul Hamilton said on WGR Bo requested a trade, which is not what was reported by Friedman at all. Friedman said that the Sabres are gauging the market for him, and somehow that led to Paul Hamilton saying that Bo requested a trade. So that's kind of where that came from. Because I think the Friedman report was Bo would welcome a bigger role, which, okay.
But that doesn't mean he went into the office and said he wants to be traded.
Yeah, exactly. I do think the Sabres should move on from him. Again, strike while the iron's hot. I still think a team might overpay for a puck mover like Byram with Stanley Cup champion. And also kind of fitting where, unfortunately for Bo, he's not going to get that big. Dahlin's the number 1 guy and Power's the number 2. Byram has really been effective with Dahlin.
Offhand.
Yep. But do you want to pay that guy who's only effective with Dahlin what Bo is going to make? Like, that Jacob Chychrun deal really muddies the waters for Boehm Byram, because he has better numbers than Jacob Chychrun. I don't want to pay Boehm Byram.
You don't want to pay 3 defensemen over $20 million.
I don't care if it's 3 defensemen, but I don't want to pay that defense.
If he's not even the number 1 or number 2.
Exactly. So that's where it's kind of like I expect Byram to be moved. But if Byram's gone, you need 2 top 4 defensemen. So that's kind of where like my opinion is their biggest need by far is defense, but they can't neglect the forward.
Going into the free agent class here, and
it's not exactly the best. There's some decent forwards out there. Nothing that I think.
There we go. So again, I think people wanting Mitch Marner, that's you might as well keep dreaming for that. I don't think the Sabres are going to be paying him $14 million a year in the open market, and definitely the bidding war that's going to come for a guy like Mitch Marner. It would be fun to see him, have revenge against the Leafs just down the QEW there, but I think that's just not something the Sabres are in a position to do right now, nor do I think Mitch Marner would want to come to Buffalo, given that they're really not in a position to win right now, and he could probably get more money elsewhere. I don't think Kevin Adams is in a position to give him what he's looking for in the open market, and we've seen top-end free agents just not even really look at Buffalo as a destination, and, Kevin Adams talking about palm trees this last January. But going down the list here, just available UFAs, obviously John Tavares is probably going to re-sign with Toronto on a shorter deal. Matt Duchene, 34 years old. Mikael Granlund, 33 years old. Nick Ehlers, Ryan Donato, Patrick Kane, probably going back to Detroit. Brock Nelson, Will he return to Colorado? I don't know. Sam Bennett's another big name free agent, going to get paid. When you go down the list here, Brock Besser, Brad Marchand, Jamie Benn, like Claude Giroux, Kyle Palmieri, he's going to be 35 years old. Like, realistically, as I'm scrolling through the free agent list here, Austin, what are you kind of looking at as somebody that you might be interested in and who would actually want to come to Buffalo right now?
So forward-wise, and he kind of fits the middle six forward. I like Mason Appleton as a target. Solid defensive
from Winnipeg
two-way guy. Yeah, I think he could be a nice third line guy who could play up in the lineup when needed to. UFA forwards is tough because I don't think the impact that the Sabres will want is kind of worth the squeeze unless maybe a Jack Roslovic again. But I feel like he's the type of guy who will stay in Carolina because usually those types of guys Carolina is good at retaining. Defense, pipe dream. I don't know how good he is anymore, but like there's the Eric Stahl connection to Aaron Ekblad. I think, again, very doubtful, but someone to monitor. He's a name.
If they move Byram, they would make some cap space to be able to sign a guy like Aaron Ekblad. But
yeah, some underrated defensive guys that I kind of like. Again, I don't know if he gets to UFA from Columbus, but like Dante Fabro might not be all that expensive. A guy like Nick Perbix from Tampa Bay might not be all that expensive. I do think, if you want that true top four defenseman, you're going to have to probably do it via trade. And that's where you look at a Zach Whitecloud from Las Vegas or a Michael Kesselring from Utah, or he's a lefty, so it's kind of whatever. But like a guy like Jonas Brodin loses trade protection come July. He's someone you could target. You do have JJ Peterka, Bowen Byram type of trade chip that maybe Minnesota would be interested in.
I saw people floating around Rossi, but like what with Brodin, like I saw that today and I just kind of shook my head at that.
That's probably not happening. But just like the name Brodin is a fun one that he's got a history with Dolly and both playing on the Swedish team.
Can we get Brock Faber?
I don't want him.
He's one of those guys that's very polarizing. Either you love him or you hate him. Like
I think he's a little bit overrated and definitely not the type of defenseman that Buffalo needs.
Point of order. It seems like these trades are harder to make for these roster players these days. Like I don't know if it's because the 32 teams now and because the cap hasn't gone up in a while. It just seems like the top impact players aren't moving around. We're not seeing Mikko Rantanen type trades every single season with pending UFAs. Like I think it's harder to kind of make trades in today's NHL with guys that have term, unless they're just guys that teams want to give away for free because he's 35 years old with 4 years left on his contract making $8 million.
Yeah, but the cap's about to start going up.
Yeah. Hopefully it goes in a different direction. Just recently it hasn't really materialized.
Yeah, there's been a decent amount this year, but I definitely get you there. Like I said, it's
middle stat for Byram was one of them.
That's where again, unfortunately, not to give Adams credit because I'm not a fan of him, but he is one of the few GMs that does make these roster players, right?
Josh Norris,
Bowen Byram. He got Greenway for draft picks. Like he has acquired players with term. McLeod, like the credit he deserves is like he has been relatively solid at that.
So last question for you would be, it would be like if Thompson's going to be more of a winger going forward, you move Norris up to the top line wing or top line center. Then you look for a number 2 center or Ryan McLeod. He's more known as a number 3, but he played really well this year. So I think it depends on if they want Thompson to be still on the wing or they want to move him back to center, because then if he moves to wing, you've got Norris down the middle. You probably want to get another center.
I'm not saying this is a good idea because, again, this is not what a real serious team. They did really seem to like Kulich, Benson, and Thompson.
Right.
Now, you should not be penciling Yuri Kulich in as your number 1 center going into next year. Nothing against the player at all. I like Kulich a lot.
He had a great breakout year.
Yeah, but you should not be doing that. So I'm interested to see what they do. Ruff does appear to like Thompson at wing.
Right. He has the ability to go in when needed, but
I don't really care where he is. I prefer him at center just because Thompson, Norris, McLeod, top 3 sounds pretty good. But here's the thing. Maybe they trade. I mean, again, for a center, right? Like a name that I've seen thrown around by a couple Sabres people that I really actually am starting to not come around on, but like I didn't think was realistic, but now maybe might be like a Barrett Hayden from Utah. Mm-hmm. He's given a little bit of McLeod vibes in terms of could thrive in a different environment. And then all of a sudden, if you have a Norris, Hayden, McLeod as your top 3, no true number 1 there, but some really quality depth there with the Thompson question looming. I don't know. So there are names out there. There are moves out there to be had. We just got to hope this GM can not only identify them, but he can execute them, because the moves he has made, and depending on your opinion of the Norris trade, which obviously determines purely on health, but I think Norris is a good player. He's made good trades. He's identified good player and acquired them. He just hasn't done it enough. So I really like we were talking about free agents. I'm not going to sit here and I would love Mitch Marner to come to Buffalo, obviously. 2% chance.
If Thompson's your top line right wing and Tuck's your second, you don't even really need to talk about that scenario.
Again, I don't know what they're going to do. Also, he's probably not gone because I think they're going to try and bridge him and keep him here. That Peterka smoke at the trade deadline, pretty hard to ignore. But
what kind of contract's he asking for, right?
That's the problem. That's why I think you bridge. He's the perfect bridge candidate. I know people don't necessarily love that, but I just can't imagine this GM. That's kind of what we talked about last episode is he has to also improve the team, but he also has McLeod, Peterka, without any trades. McLeod, Peterka, Quinn, Byram, Jacob Bernard-Docker, Devin Levi.
I could eat up a lot of your free cap.
All his RFAs.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you trade Byram, you still have 5 RFAs you have to sign. Adams is going to have to be busy. All the more reason to get him a senior advisor.